Hello, this is Teacher Igor and welcome to a brand new video. Today we are going to talk about how to think in English. Thinking in English is a very vital skill in the arsenal of any English learner. I hear stories all the time about people that went from not being able to construct sentences in the English language to having a lot of confidence to finally have a conversation with a foreigner that they've always wanted to talk to. And they made this jump because they were able to start thinking in English. If you're not thinking in English, there is a good chance that your speech is actually pretty slow and also unnatural, because thinking in English allows you to bridge the gap between thought and speech, and it helps you become more fluent. The reason why it helps you become more fluent is because finally you stop translating everything in your head. You stop translating everything from your mother tongue to English, and it finally allows you to speed up your speech and speak perfectly and naturally. The biggest reason why many people fail to bridge that gap is because of the school system. Just like you, I used to study at a school. And whenever we were trying to learn a new language, there were a lot of translation tasks involved into the learning process. And obviously, I hated them all with my whole heart from the beginning because I really felt like it wasn't helping me get the grasp of the real language. It didn't help me in any way to become better at speaking. So remember, every time you do a translation task, it actually trains you to be slow. All right? And unless you really need it for a job, if you want to work as a translator from one language to another, then of course you can do it, you can practice that because this is part of your skills. But otherwise, don't do it. It's not going to help you, and it's only going to inhibit the process of your language development. So, how do we start thinking in English? Actually, I've developed a 5-step plan for you that you can easily follow so that you can finally become fluent in thinking and speaking English. So let's dive into that. First of all, the first step that I want you to take is name things around you. Whenever you are at your apartment or house, or you are at work, or if you are in the street, walking around, try to start naming different things that you see. When you are walking down the street and you see a car, say, car. But do it in your head. You don't need to actually voice it. You don't need to say it out loud. When you're at your job, you can start naming things around you. You can say, computer, coworker, manager. If you are at home, you can start naming household items. You can say phone, passport, TV, curtain, wall. Okay? This is the first step that I want you to take, and after that we're going to make the task more difficult. Another tip that I can give you is use a reminder or use an alarm. Every time you wake up or every time you go to bed or before bed, I want you to try to practice for about 10 minutes. So, set a reminder every morning, afternoon, and evening, and do this thinking exercise for 10 minutes at a time. Overall, during the whole day, you're going to spend 30 minutes thinking in English, all right? Even though it's very simple, right now you're just naming things, it's going to evolve and it's going to become more automatic for you to a point where you don't even need the alarm anymore. So, you're going to get rid of it after some time and move on to step 2. Step 2 in our action plan is to start adding verbs. When naming becomes more automatic, when you don't really find it difficult anymore, when you don't search it on your translator anymore, you need to try to add actions. All right? If you are outside in the street and you are walking down and you see, let's say, a woman. Before, in step 1, you would just say woman. Now, I want you to add the verb. Woman walking, or man drinking, or car moving. Do it all in your head and try to get to a point where this also becomes quite automatic for you. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, what should I do if I don't know the nouns and I don't know some verbs? Well, here you need to use your natural curiosity. That's a wonderful question, by the way, right? Use this natural curiosity and use the technology that you have at your disposal. Translate the words that you don't know. And then I want you to do the following. So because this exercise doesn't actually last that long, maybe you are not going to write too many words. So I want you to write 3 to 5 words every time you translate them. Write them on a sticky note. Put that sticky note in your bathroom on a mirror. All right? This is usually the place where you always look, right? Because every time you wake up, you go to the bathroom, you start brushing your teeth, and then you look in the mirror and you see yourself and you check yourself out, right? So use this as an opportunity to repeat the words that you translated before. All right? Do it in the morning after you wake up, and then before bed, before you are about to sleep. Now you're going to be walking down the street, and now you will be able to remember the words that you wrote down and use them as part of our exercise, which I think is great. When you're comfortable with using verbs and nouns, you can move on to step 3. Step 3 is to add the adjectives. We use adjectives to describe our nouns, our subjects, right? So let's take walking down the street as an example one more time. If you see a woman walking, you can start to add the adjective. How can you describe this woman? Well, this woman is confident, okay? Now you can start thinking, confident woman walking. If you see a man drinking some water, right? You see man drinking. Now you can say handsome man drinking. And if you see a car, which is moving, you can also add another adjective. You can say white car moving. Okay? This is the next step that I want you to take, and this is going to improve your thinking skills even more. When you get comfortable with using adjectives, verbs, and nouns, you can move on to step 4. Step 4 is to start using simple sentences instead of our structure that we used in step 3. Now, instead of saying confident woman walking, you can say, I see a confident woman walking in the park. All right? Here's a simple sentence that you can construct now that you have become more comfortable with using nouns, verbs, and adjectives. Another thing, when you see handsome man drinking, now you can say, there is a handsome man drinking coffee on the bench. And instead of saying white car moving, now you can make a simple sentence and say, I see a white car moving fast on the road. And when you get comfortable with step 4, now you will be able to move on to step 5. Step 5 is to start expressing your thoughts, opinions, and ideas. But do not move on to this step until you've become really, really comfortable with simple sentences. When you're able to construct simple sentences flawlessly, perfectly, and you feel confident in yourself, then try to add some of your opinions about those things. So instead of saying, I see a confident woman walking in the park, now you can also add an opinion of yours, a judgment. So instead of saying that, you can say, I see a confident woman walking in the park. I really like her outfit. See what I did here? I added my opinion about this woman. Instead of saying there is a handsome man drinking coffee on the bench, now you can say there is a handsome man drinking coffee on the bench. I'd love to have a cup of coffee for myself. See, I'm also expressing my opinion. And when you start expressing your opinions, now you're thinking in English. Magical, isn't it? Of course, with time, you will get more and more comfortable doing that. And you will also notice that everything that I just discussed about the exercise becomes automatic. Now you're thinking in English about different things, and now you want to spend more time doing this exercise. Now, it's not just an exercise, it is a skill. You can use this skill to impress others, but most importantly, impress yourself. But before we move on to our next video, I want to share with you some tips to maximize the benefits of this exercise. All right? So the first tip that I want to share with you is whenever you are at home, don't be afraid to speak out loud. Voice your thoughts. Even if you think that thinking in English implies that you're doing it quietly, that you don't need to use your vocal cords to do that, speaking is actually part of thinking. So, don't be afraid to speak out loud. When there is no one around you, when there is no one at home, do it. Don't be afraid to do it, all right? No one is going to judge you. And even when there is someone at home, you're speaking in English. You can always say, oh, I'm practicing. I'm trying to get better. And they will actually respect the hustle. So don't be afraid. Don't be scared. You can always practice when you're by yourself. The second tip that I want to give you is something we've discussed before already, which is sticky notes. Don't forget your sticky notes. Every time you don't know some kind of vocabulary, write it down. Try not to use a translation. Instead, try to explain this word using the English language. This way, you will be able to connect the words that you already know to the new ones. And you will be able to name things and then also give definitions and know the meaning of them easier. So please, every time you write your sticky notes, try to write them entirely in English. But I don't recommend doing it when you are on step 1 or step 2 and you're just starting out. You should start doing this when you are on step 4 or step 5, because this way you will be more comfortable and there will be no tension and no difficulty for you to understand the meanings of these words. If you are watching this video, there is actually a good chance that you are not a complete beginner, right? So maybe you will need to skip step 1, or maybe start with step 2 or step 3, maybe step 4 if you're comfortable. Okay, it's all up to you. But I really encourage you to give it a try, give it a shot. Try to incorporate this into your daily routine and you will see incredible results, just like I saw when I started doing this when I was about 14, 15 years old. And as you remember, I am a non-native speaker. This definitely helped me a lot to develop my public speaking skills and also develop my confidence every time I speak with foreigners or here when I live in a different country. It definitely helps communicate and also do my job. So hopefully this has been helpful. I really hope that you will see results as soon as possible. Tell me in the comments your thoughts, your ideas, and I'm always willing to read them. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. See you later.